Hello and welcome to Todd Rolls Dice, where we're going to take a look at the final preview for Horus Heresy 3.0, I think. This is going to be talking about the Legacies of the Age of Darkness PDF that hasn't been released. It's coming around the launch of the Saturnine box set. But it hasn't been released yet, but they're detailing what's coming in there. So, after all of the leaks, after the huge backlash, which honestly, I was a little bit against. I'm all for people voicing their opinion. I'm all for calling out a company when they make changes that negatively impacts the game for hundreds, thousands, whatever sizable percentage of the player base that this impacted. I'm all for that when a company does something wrong. But basing that whole outcry on leaks and half information isn't a wise move. My stance has always been just wait and see what happens on launch day, wait and see what's in the Legacies PDF. It's sad that this whole leak situation and the outcry from the community, which, again, the community is completely right to do whatever they feel they need to do, but it's put the whole Horus Heresy launch, I was really excited about it. I was looking into 3.0, I was quite looking forward to seeing the rules. I was potentially thinking of picking up a rulebook, but how quickly the community just turned so nasty. Most of them were united in what they were saying, but the vitriol, it's just put me off. So well done. As a community, I wouldn't say you've scared me away, but you've certainly curbed my interest in this game. But I always said wait and see what's coming. Obviously this article is probably not going to address all the issues, but hopefully it puts a lot of you just a little bit at ease. That you'll still be able to use probably most of your units. I think we have to face the fact that some of them will have gone. But we're going to run through this. We're not going to go over the units, but the article is linked in the description. If you haven't seen it, you can just check out and make sure that the units that you use are still going to be available. But I do want to stress, even though I'm defending Games Workshop on this one, removing stuff from a game and the whole way that they've gone about promoting Horus Heresy in Warcom articles has been very disingenuous. Their communication has been poor, and the changes that they have made have been much more wholesale than they initially led the community to think. So from a communication point and from a sort of rules preview point, they've utterly failed the community. But I think the community has embarrassed itself a little bit by going so hard and so vocal and vitriolic against them, to the point where numerous people are stating that 3rd edition is dead before it's even been up for pre-order, let alone released. I think that the gun was jumped quite heavily, and hopefully this solves that issue. But I think that the community just needs to simmer down a little bit. I'm not part of the community. I'm giving you my honest opinion on the whole situation. If, at the point of launch, all of those units and all of those players were still impacted by this in such a big way, that's when you grab the pitchforks. That's when you riot. That's when you say no to the new edition, and you vote with your wallets, and you keep playing whichever edition you're happy playing. It's at that point, when everything is launched, what they call the day one launch, that's the point you riot. They are fighting fires. This article is probably done because of all the backlash. Well, no, it's not probably, it's definitely because of all the backlash. But I also think that you need to give them a little bit of trust that I was going to say they know what they're doing, but this is Games Workshop, so maybe not. I think that you need to give them a little bit of time, certainly until the product releases, to see what state it's in before you make snap judgments. But that's just my stance, and I will always have that stance. If this was a 40k thing, I would still be saying, look, wait, no matter how much it would impact me and my armies, I'd say wait, let's see what happens at launch. And then at launch, we riot. Hopefully we don't need to riot at launch, and hopefully this article just eases everything for everybody. But that's my stance. I'm fully expecting both barrels in the comments. Anybody who, whichever army you play, whichever game system you play, if you spent time building, painting, kit bashing models, having a complete custom personal army that you have tailored to how you want to play with units that you love, if those units are taken away, I completely get that you would be pissed off, and you are right to be so. I just think the time frame and how long you need to give a company to actually release the game should step into that. But let's run through this. Hopefully there's an apology in here about their communication, and hopefully this makes things a little bit clearer. But with that, Legacies of the Age of Darkness, what you need to know. The new edition of Warhammer Horus Heresy lands in stores in just a few days' time. We know loads of you are excited to get stuck into the game, and to get your new Sat9 units on the field. I think that's an overstatement. We've also noticed that some of you are concerned that certain units in your existing armies might not be usable in the new edition, especially if they don't feature in the Liber book for that faction. Hopefully this article will reassure you that those Tartaros Terminators with power fists, destroyers with jump packs, and lovingly converted White Scars champions on bikes won't be resigned to a life on the shelf. Is that a destroyer squad? I really like the dual bolt pistol look. That's cool. So, the upcoming Legacies of the Age of Darkness PDF is a huge document that will allow you to continue to use the vast majority of miniatures you've amassed over the last decade of collecting, alongside the digital support for the likes of Talons of the Emperor, Imperial Army, and Ruinstorm Demons. Players with existing Horus Heresy collections will be able to keep fielding older miniatures in their games. This PDF is set to drop shortly after the release of the Sat9 box set, and it will cover a wide swathe of the more exotic and specialized units in the Age of Darkness. Okay, so one thing I will say, it shouldn't be releasing shortly after the release. It should be straight away on the Saturday. Here's the rules. There shouldn't be any delay in the Legacies of the Age of Darkness PDF coming out. In fact, what they should do is launch it the Friday before. Hopefully they will, so I think that's a bit of a negative, and they need to be clearer on the communication of when it will actually drop, because shortly isn't an accurate time frame. The big question: why were these rules not in the Liber books? The army lists in the Liber books are a reflection of the current range of miniatures. They are written to reflect the contents of boxed units so new players can build armies without feeling the need to buy multiple kits just to make one unit. We're back to that negative feeling, aren't we? The boxes themselves are designed to represent the most typical wargear loadouts those units would have. It also means that these rulebooks can still be compact enough to transport to your games. The Libers aren't that compact. However, Warhammer the Horus Heresy Age of Darkness is designed as a game where Legacy can live. And we fully intend for players with existing armies to use these Legacy units in their games, including in competitive play. These are no less official than those units with rules in the Liber books. You know what, I'm going to give you my thoughts as we break down this article. Yes, I 100% agree with their stance on this, that all of the units in the Legacies PDF are legal and usable in their tournaments and for competitive play, whatever that looks like in Horus Heresy. That should always be a given. What I don't like, and I've said this before and I'm sure a lot of you will agree with me on this, I don't like that they have fixed loadout units. It's been the death of Space Marines in 40k for me. I just lost interest until the Space Wolves came out recently. I lost interest in all of what Space Marines were because of how static and boring the equipment is. Kit bashing, modeling, creating units that have custom weapons and things should be accepted. You should be able to do it. Not everybody wants to do it. New players do just want to buy a box and build what's in the box. That should always be a thing too. And that unit should always have rules. But you should allow your players, your community, to build what they want. And if certain weapons do exist in a game, my stance, whatever the game is, you should have a points cost for a troop and a points cost for a weapon. Obviously have maximum limits for certain weapons and things in certain squads. I get that completely. But if you want to build custom units, you should be able to do that. The fact that they're treating that as something that people don't do anymore is quite alarming to me. But I also see both sides. I think the Libers, and because they're a big, heavy printed book, I get why they'd want to keep that short a little bit. But hey, here's a crazy idea. Digital rules. Have an app. Solves all of these issues. And it still allows people to kit bash the armies that they want. Because those new players who buy a box of Mark IIs and they build them all with bolters, and then they see that you can buy special weapon sprues, they're going to want to start kit bashing. Even if it's just an arm swap. So this, how they've set this up for Legacy rules to still be fully utilized in all types of games is correct. But the fact that they're looking at this very much as, oh, people just buy a box and build the box, isn't the case. and we're starting to see this trend with them, and that's worrying. Hopefully, this whole situation has opened their eyes to the amount of people who do make custom armies, custom miniatures, custom weapon loadouts, and they're going to start to bring that back into their other games as well, because that is a core part of the hobby for me, and one of the big reasons that I was interested in Horus Heresy. One was the narrative, but the other one was the freedom in how you can create units. This Legacies PDF, very much like Middle-earth strategy battle game and the Armies of Middle-earth book, which gave you the units not in the films, is a key piece of this game. This Legacies document is going to be used by every player going forward. They should have been clearer about what was in there when they announced it, yes, but also just go down the digital rules and then you won't have this issue. You don't need to carry a book because you have an app. Modernize how you deliver rules, and you wouldn't need to differentiate between a Liber book and a Legacy PDF. So this is a problem of their making. It's a weird way of going around fixing it, in all honesty. It's a very old-fashioned way, but I will give them credit for doing it this way and having Legacies as part of that competitive play side of things. But I am concerned about how keen they are to move away from custom loadouts. Can I use them in a tournament? So that's always up to the organizer. However, we certainly plan to allow... Oh, they've changed their stance on this as well. They certainly plan to allow Legacies rules and units at official Warhammer Horus Heresy campaign events. This is designed as a narrative wargame above all else. If you're looking to create an optimized, cutthroat, all-conquering, unbeatable army, all power to you. An epic win at all costs throwdown can be a lot of fun, but that's not the focus of the rules in this game. I hope not. I hope that this is narrative focused. Time will tell once the rulebook is available and army building is available to everybody. We'll see how cutthroat it can be. But again, they certainly plan to allow. It's not we allow, it's we plan to allow. So is their stance on legacy rules going to change towards the end of the edition? Again, their communication is just a little bit wonky, I think. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but just say we allow. Or legacy rules are fully legal for all official Warhammer tournaments. Be clearer in your text. Is everything covered in the Legacies PDF? Not quite. And this is where some of the backlash will come in and be reignited, and that's fine once we have the full picture. I will support anybody who fights for custom miniatures that they've created that they can't use, but only once we have all the information. But let's see what is covered. There are notable absences from the list, including a section of named characters who have never had miniatures released. We'll break this down in a minute. These are usually variants of champions, captains, and other characters who do have rules, so players who have converted such miniatures can continue to use them using the rules for that character's archetype with the appropriate weapons. There are a very small number of units which once existed in the rules but were never on sale and which are no longer part of the game at all. This might be because a newer incarnation of that unit has replaced them, or because we plan to revisit them at some point. Even in these circumstances, there is usually a close approximation that you can represent with your converted miniatures. All of that's good. Well, that second paragraph is good. So below we have a list of all of the units which will have playable rules and unit datasheets in the upcoming Legacies of the Age of Darkness PDF. So this is your Astartes various stuff. I mean, there's loads of stuff in it. Scout Squad's got removed. Interesting. In addition to those units, the PDF will also include options to equip many characters with more exotic wargear like bikes, jump packs, and Terminator armor. And then you've got a list of chapter-specific units here, Mechanicum, and Solar Auxilia units as well. So this is a big old chunk of stuff. Before we get on to the next part of this, I want to talk about this paragraph. Removing named characters who've never had models released, I think is an odd choice. Like they say here, it might be that that character will get a model down the line, and I'm surprised that, I mean, there's numerous named characters in the Horus Heresy. I'm surprised that there are rules for characters who don't have model. But that is just Games Workshop making sure that they have their copyright stuff legally binding. Everything is all that they sell. That's what they want you to do. They don't want 3D printed stuff. So that is just them locking it down as much as they possibly can. It doesn't mean that named characters won't get models down the line. We just got, towards the end of 2.0, we got Katie's Necks, we got the Blood Angels guy, we got quite a few of the Black Shields as well, didn't we? So I think characters will be coming, and more characters, maybe updated characters, will be coming. But any character who you have customized and kitbashed, it sounds like will have an approximate profile that you can use to represent that model, which is good. But they're giving us all of this, and further down the article, they may actually tell us. They don't. Right, so I'm going to blast them for this. When they say there are a very small number of units that once existed in the rules but were never on sale and are no longer part of the game, you need to name those units. You need to tell people which units they cannot play. You can give us all of this. This tells us everything that you can play, which is good, but you also need to spell out what rules are removing. I said this at the time when they were talking about digital rules. They need to be more open and honest with their community. And they need to expect their community to understand. I think that their communication and how they treat the community is generally quite poor anyway. It certainly has been through the entire preview of 3.0. They need to give their community a lot more credit and intelligence, but they also need to be clearer with how they word things and what they're pulling out. This article should include the very small number of units that don't have rules, just so we're all on the same page and everybody knows what they can expect. Their reasoning is fine. If those units have had replacements done, fine. They've been upgraded or changed slightly to better fit, fine. But tell people. If it's because they plan to revisit them down the line, that's fine too. You don't need to tell us what's coming yet, but tell us that they're not in there. With better communication. If this article had dropped, I was going to say before the leaks, but that would have been impossible because you never know when the leaks are going to drop. But if this article had dropped the day before pre-orders went live and they were just incredibly open about everything, the situation wouldn't have gotten as bad as it had. Games Workshop, as a company, as a place that sells models that they then make rules for, and games creators, you need to be so much more open when you're bringing in new additions and you're changing things. And like, your communication has been shocking throughout this entire process, and you have burned quite a lot of goodwill with quite a lot of your audience. So I think you need to look at your marketing, you need to look at Warcom, you need to look at how these articles are delivered and the information in them, and you need to be more open and honest. And you need to do it very quickly. Because if this happens with 40k 10th, you are going to start to see a big problem. And all that profit that you've been making, and all those dividends you've been paying to your shareholders, they could well be at risk. So get your act together. You've got 12 months. Figure it out and actually credit your community with the intelligence that they have. That's my stance. But like I say, there's this whole list here of a variety of things. Hopefully pretty much everything that, like the big units that people were missing, is mentioned in here. I haven't been paying much attention, but I have heard Speaker of the Dead mentioned the Space Wolves, so that unit is going to have rules, which is good. I don't really know what a lot of this stuff is because I'm not in the Heresy. But we have a whole list of things. Fortifications, quite a lot of fortifications coming in. I actually thought fortifications would be in one of the Journal Tacticas. And there is going to be new units in the Journal Tacticas as well, so that may be a way of getting more. I mean, there's some odd omissions. Stormblade, Shadow Sword, Storm Sword, the Bane Hammer, the Hell Hammer, the Bane Blade, all missing from the Libers. That seems weird. But there is obviously all of this list of units, so hopefully you can still put together, I'd like to say all, but it's probably not going to be all, but 95% of your units. And you can still build a fun army that you will enjoy playing with once this PDF is out. It's very satisfying to field armies you've collected across a decade together in a game. But we know that you also want new miniatures. This edition will continually expand the miniatures range in plastic, which is good, including some units in this Legacy list. Well, that brings up more questions. which will return with new designs and possibly new weapons options and war gear. When this happens, you can expect to see the unit's rules here phased out, with updated content covered in an appropriate new publication. There is more free digital support on the way over the next few months, hopefully longer as well, including army rules for Talons of the Emperor, the Inducti Black Shields, and more. We've gone over this in a previous video. And the Legacies for the Age of Darkness PDF will land shortly after release of the new edition on the 26th of July. So the latest that I will give them to release this, it should be releasing on the 26th of July. The latest that I will give them is Monday the 28th. They should have it ready to go that morning. I think that's a reasonable time frame for such a huge swathe of people's armies to get rules, because there's people who are going to be getting this rule book and they want to play that day. Ideally, this PDF and the where are we? Talons of the Emperor PDF. Ideally, that would be launching on Friday the 25th, the day before all of this goes on general sale. But we will see. I'm going to keep tabs on this because we may have a look at the Legacies PDF. But there is a lot in here. It is a massive document by the looks of it. Which is good. It's good that the support is here. Let's just touch on this final paragraph. So they are going to phase out, change, upgrade, do new characters, move from resin to plastic. We know all of this. It's good that they're pointing out that some units from the Legacy list will be updated, will get new designs, new models. That's all good. It's all expected as well. I think my stance on it was always that they will take bits out of here and update them. As they've mentioned, there are things that have been removed that may also get new kits down the line as well. Don't hold your breath on those. Hopefully that will happen. But phasing out units, changing all of this stuff, communicate better. But also, as a community, don't be led by leaks, because you never get the full story. But this is everything that is going to be included in that document. We will have all the data sheets soon, in the next couple of weeks. Ideally as soon as possible. Like I say, I think it should be out the day before this goes on general sale. We'll see how close they are to that. They're probably putting the finishing touches to it. They're probably making sure that all the rules work, because I am pretty sure, following the leaks, quite a lot of these units will have been added to make sure that they have rules. I appreciate how they've worded this. I appreciate that they've put this article out. I appreciate it that it's in a response to leaks, which they don't normally like to do, but also they need to hold their hands up, and I don't think at any point in this article have they actually held their hands up and said, we messed up. The community got very loud, very quick. And from that side, I think it's great to see a community united for improving the game. The game wasn't out yet, so it was a little bit too soon, but on the flip side, Games Workshop, you need to do so much better. Like I said at the start of this video, I'm fully expecting flack for my stance on this. If you disagree with it, that's absolutely fine. I'm expecting a whole host of negative stuff. But what I do want to know, once you've vented at me, if you want to vent at me, does this actually put most of your army back on the table? And are the units in here? Because you guys, anybody who plays 2.0 or 1.0, you guys know better than I do. All like Thunderhawks. Why is a Thunderhawk transporter? Is that different to a Thunderhawk then? I don't know. But if you own a Thunderhawk, you damn well better have rules for that damn model for the price that you pay. But there's a lot of stuff in here that you would just think would be in the Liber, but it might be that we're getting new. But hopefully your armies are back on the table. Let me know in the comments below. We will be covering more Horus Heresy 3.0 once it's released. I'm still on the fence. I don't know if I will be starting it. I'd love to know if you guys are interested in following an idiot's journey getting into Horus Heresy and slowly building up an army. Like, if that's something of interest and you're interested in my take of going through it, let me know. But yeah, I mean, this is where we are. We are a product of what Games Workshop makes us. Unfortunately, they have to shoulder a lot of the blame here, but it is what it is. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.